Hello and welcome to week 26. We're going to talk about benchmarks and metrics in our third part of our process series. And the reason that this is part of process is you cannot implement processes without being able to measure the success rate of that process. I mean, you can, but what's the point if you don't know, if what you changed is actually better or worse for your business? So there's two videos this week. This is the first video. We're going to talk about metrics. The second video, we're going to talk more about those benchmarks. So first and foremost, I want to make it clear that you can measure everything. Literally everything can be measured. How you measure it is going to vary, and you might have to get a little creative, and we're going to get into that in just a bit, but everything can be measured. So just keep that in mind as you're going through process, as you're going through life in general. You can measure everything. So when you're implementing processes, you want to think about all the things that could be affected if the process was improved. Now, the effect could be positive or negative. Where you are implementing a process, you're going to increase production and it's going to make you a lot more money. But let's say employee morale goes down because you are now treating them more like robots than they are people, and something that you need to consider. So anytime that you implement a process, just think about everything that would be affected when you implement that process, positive or negative. When you're looking at process in general, when you're implementing processes, you want to pick those things that you can easily measure, that are going to act as indicators for adoption or success of that implementation. And I say the easy things because you want to be able to quickly check them. Now we're going to talk right after this about the fuzzy numbers, the estimations, like the other things, like the intangibles that you can measure, but they're a little bit harder to do. So you want to be able to track those, but that's not something that you're going to track every day. So you want to set goals for improvement in your process. So I'm going to implement this process. It's going to increase production. I'm going to increase sales. I'm going to decrease costs. I'm going to do whatever it is. Set those goals and make them easily measurable so that you can track them, and it is great for your team so that they can track them as well, and get some sort of motivation to hit their numbers. When we're talking about the fuzzy numbers, you might have to get creative when you're measuring. So the intangibles, let's say like employee morale. That's not something that you can pull up a chart and look at, but there are things that go into employee morale that you can track. So for instance, people showing up on time for work. That is a part of employee morale, because the happier they are, the more likely that they're going to show up to work on time, stay late, whatever it is. Production, that's something that is an indicator of employee morale. The number of complaints in the complaint box. All of those things can go to can be combined together to create a measurement of employee morale. So if you're implementing something and you say, okay, well, morale is going to increase by 10%, figure out all the different things that you can measure that will combine to create employee morale. Why do you want to perform all of these measurements? Well, besides the fact that it's really fun, you want the justification that you're doing something financially sound when you're implementing a process. So you want to justify to yourself that it makes sense that this, whatever you're changing, adding, subtracting, etc., makes sense for your business. But you also might need it for investments, for banks, investors, loans, all of that fun stuff. So these fuzzy numbers are helpful, but if you're giving them to somebody else to look at, you're probably gonna have to defend them. So you don't want to make them look good just for the sake of making it look good. You don't want to pat yourself on the back. You want to be realistic. And your financial projections, you want to be conservative as well. So it's here are some things I can expect this stuff to increase or improve, whatever it is, but you don't want to get out of control in terms of I think that employee morale is going to increase by 1,000%, and that's going to increase all of these other things across the board. So you make them attractive enough that investors would give you money, but realistic enough that you could actually do what you say you're going to do. And when it comes to metrics, after you get past those fuzzy things, and that's like what you're putting in your ROI, your return on investment, your business cases, that type of stuff, the metrics that you're tracking day to day they should be easily measured. So we're not going to measure just to measure. We're going to do it because we want to compare against our previous selves, yesterday, the week before, last year, whatever it is. You can set up some stuff to run automatically. And if you can't figure out how to do it, there are businesses out there that can help. But there's a lot of, especially in today's age with all the software and computer systems and all that, most of them have reporting. So you can pull those reports, generate your own reports, et cetera, and build out your own kind of dashboard for the things that you want to measure. And you're going to look for just those anomalies. Again, like you want to see that increase of, I think I'm going to increase my sales by 10% this year. That's great. And you can track that throughout the year. But if you have a week where sales drop off for some reason, like you want to be able to spot those anomalies pretty easily and figure out why that happened. And you want to do that quickly. The difference, so the one thing I haven't talked about is going to be your key performance indicators, also known as KPIs, versus metrics. The key performance indicators are those high level numbers, and it's like that 30,000 foot view of what's going on in your business. So sales, cost of goods, those are KPIs. If my sales increase, that's an indicator that things are happening. There's a lot of other metrics that go into my sales number, but sales increasing, that's a KPI. Cost of goods, that's a KPI. There's a lot of stuff that goes into cost of goods that I can measure, but that the cost of goods is kind of that high level combination of everything that's going in to into that KPI. Just because you increased your sales, for example, this year by 50% doesn't mean that you increased your profit by the same amount. So you want to look into that and say, okay, what made up that 50% growth? If it was an item that has like a small profitability, that doesn't mean a lot for me. That just means I increased sales, I increased a lot of work for me, but I'm not making as much money as I could if I was selling something else that's more profitable. And lastly, I mean, you just want to dig into the numbers when you need to, but you don't want to really dig in as often as you do the KPIs. The KPIs, like I said, are just kind of that, like you get the pulse on your business. And if something kind of looks off, then you can dig into everything underneath. But those KPIs are that high level that really just guides your business. And that's what you need to track. Up next, we're going to talk about benchmarks and the importance of tracking them throughout process improvements.